Just one quick little tip when doing stuff like this. Get yourself some baggies, a little permanent marker, and label and write down a little note for all the pieces you take apart. And snap some pictures. I'll be recording everything, so I'll have some video to go back and look at. But that should help you along the way. This uninstall video is going to be a little different than the past uninstall videos because it got to a point that I was so tired and frustrated that I couldn't even think about or focus on recording steps and instructions to uninstall these Turbosmart blow-off valves. So what I'm going to do now is kind of walk through it and try to remember all the different things I've done and tips to give you along the way, as well as some of the footage that I did record I'll have at the end of this, and you can watch it if you'd like. But I'll go over as much of it as I can now, just with everything already in the car. So for starters, air boxes have to be removed. I have a video for that if you haven't done it already that you can reference. I used a combination of swivels, extensions, ratchets, wrenches, you name it. You know, it was tried here. The factory blow-off valve has T30 Torx bolts. The wastegate has number 4 Allen keys. You cannot remove the factory blow-off valve before removing the wastegate because this wiring harness is turned up from the factory, and you can't even pull the factory blow-off valve out all the way without removing that first. Once you do get the wastegate out, you can then remove the blow-off valve, and then you have to turn the wastegate counterclockwise to the left 90 degrees, and they put a lot of emphasis on not going past that. Well, they also don't tell you that you have to slide the wastegate out a little ways because it sits in a channel back here and you can't turn it to the left no matter how strong you are because it's going to hit metal and you can't turn it. So you have to slide it partially out and then turn it to the left. And what they also don't tell you is that as soon as you try to apply pressure to it, it does not want to move, and you feel like you're going to break something if you put any more pressure on it. So I spent a couple hours trying to call them, Turbosmart that is. Finally got a hold of them. They basically told me to turn it anyway. When I turned it, it made a very loud snap and completely lost all of its resistance. But I did get it turned to the 90 degrees and slide it back in and secure it. They said that's normal. I don't think that's proper operation for a wastegate in any way, but that's their instructions, so that's what I did. You also have to cut this wire loom here where the harness is for the wastegate and get enough slack to plug it in. I pretty much got as much slack as I could without just making a mess of things, and it's still really tight. I'm not very happy with it. So there's just a lot of weird things about this install. Also, the bolts that came with the Turbosmart blow-off valve that I was supposed to put in place of the factory Torx heads were too long, so they were bottoming out in the the mounting location. I couldn't even get them in all the way. They were too long, and that really stunk because after getting them, all 3 of them partially started and tightening them down, I realized I had to take them all out again. I believe I've covered everything for the passenger side that should help you get that one out and installed. Now let's come on over to the driver side. So the driver's side, at first glance, I really thought it was going to be easier because you can see everything. There's no clocking the wastegate. Like I said, visual is great. But the very bottom bolt on this one, can't even see where my finger is going, is an absolute beast to get to. So I ended up removing this hose, and I think I have it in the video at the end as well if I don't capture it here, but there's a mounting bracket right here. Hopefully you can see it. That has two 10mm bolts on it. You take those two 10mm bolts off and you can just move all of this wire harness out of the way. And that's your best bet at getting to that bottom bolt. And again, same as the other side as far as the blow-off valve goes. It has T30 Torx bolts from the factory. And you can reuse them with these blow-off valves if you run into the same problem I had where the bolts they provided were too long. And then that's it for the driver's side. There's not really anything crazy you have to do over here. It's just really hard to get to one of the bolts. Even this one on top is kind of hard to get to just because of where it's at. And these blow-off valves are almost pear-shaped. So without a swivel in most instances, it is hard to, you know, get that Torx driver in there to get the thing out. I mean, this job just really zapped me, and I wish I could have done a better uninstall for everybody. But okay, that's it for the walkthrough. Hopefully some of the things I said there can help you along the way, and what little bit I did record of the uninstall. I didn't get any portion of reinstalling them, unfortunately. So yeah, if you are attempting to do this on your own, just be prepared for those things that I mentioned. And I mean, have fun. It is fun working on your own car, but these were definitely challenging in a way that I didn't expect. Alright, today we are trying to swap out the factory blow-off valves for the Turbosmart dual port valves. You're going to want to start by removing the factory air boxes. If you haven't already removed them for another job or you've never done it before, I have a video up in the playlist on how to remove those as well, because it will need to be done to make room for installing these blow-off valves. They are supposed to be plug and play, so they're going to be going right back in place of the factory blow-off valve. I've already removed the harness. That's the blow-off valve. This is the wastegate. To remove this clip that's on the blow-off valve, you pull back on this, and then that is your tab you also press on to release it. The wastegate is just like all the other clips you've probably removed by now. You just push on the top of it and it slides right off. This is the passenger side. Eventually we'll get to it. We're gonna have to clock the wastegate counterclockwise to the left because the new blow-off valve is a little bit larger and it's not gonna fit. So we have to make room by turning the wastegate to where that wire harness clips on to our left a little bit. Alright, so the instructions say to, you know, move some of these wires out of the way, and that you're going to have to get more slack for this wastegate harness to clip back on. I think we've got enough. Just made a slight, very gentle cut here on this loom, which is nice and safe. Remove that tape, and hopefully we have enough slack. If not, we'll get some more. Okay, so now that we got the wire loom kind of out of the way, we're going to remove the blow-off valve. It's got 3 T30 Torx bolts in it. Okay, I thought I could get the blow-off valve out first to have easier access to the wastegate bolts, but I was wrong. The wastegate wiring harness clip blocks the blow-off valve, so you can't get it out. So we're gonna have to get the wastegate out first anyway. Okay, there's the driver's side blow-off valve out. I had to like cut and remove clips, and you'll see whenever you go to do this, like there's just so much stuff in the way without, like, you know, getting some slop and play in these harnesses. Like, you're just gonna have a really hard time getting to that bottom bolt that's on there. So just play around with it for a while eventually you'll figure out something that works for you. Okay, so the driver's side is in. You can see it. I don't like the way I routed this cord, but it was such a pain in the butt, it's just gonna stay like that. So some tips for this side is don't be afraid to remove a bunch of clips. Cut them if you have to, just because these wires are pretty secure anyway. Just get stuff out of your way.